finally have both groups of chickens, both the old with the new, living together, sleeping together, drinking together, eating together, everything all together, finally. So today we're here to share with you one of the proud moments we've had here at the homestead to help you successfully integrate two groups of flocks together as well. Welcome back to the channel, you guys, and me pretending that I know what I'm doing. Morgana right here is one of our Easter eggers that was in with our original flock that we got. Had a number of 7 to begin with, and we ended up getting another group of chicks shortly after. These girls aren't yet laying, they're not quite there. We got them at Easter, and so you might remember Morgana from before, but just to give you an idea of how big these ones have gotten as you start to see the small ones. Now that's something to really keep in mind when you're introducing a new group of chicks with the older ones. That's one thing that I probably did a little too soon, is I didn't let the new group of girls grow out as big as I probably should have from what I researched and everything. I was still able to make it successful though, and so that's why I'm going to kind of show you guys everything I did. I think one of those reasons is because of the fact that these girls are still so young themselves. They're not that old. Like I said, we only got them in Easter, so they're only, you know, about 4 months old at this point, I think. Kind of had a feeling things would go a little easier with them being so young, because I've seen that with introducing dogs and cats with each other. It's a lot easier to introduce other types of animals together when they are younger rather than when they're full grown and adults. And so that's one thing that really came in handy when trying to introduce all these chicks. Let me grab one of the smaller ones so you can see just about how big they are now that they've been living with the big ones for about a week at this point. Let me grab one of them. Are you still rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Scully right here. She's actually my favorite out of the younger group that we got. She's a blue-laced red Wyandotte, and the reason she cracks me up is because, as you saw when I brought her over, she has this habit of jumping out of my hands if I'm trying to hold her like this, and will love to just try and perch up on my hand. I don't know why, but she just does. This right here is my favorite out of the new flock. This is Scully, I've named her. She's a blue-laced red Wyandotte. She's quite flighty out of the rest of them, likes to sit on my hand, but this gives you an idea of kind of the size variation between the two groups of hens, where they got to on growing these ones out so that they could be at least big enough, hopefully, to not get pecked to death by the big ones. It's something to keep in mind with chickens, is they are bullies to each other a lot of the time. And so you want to make sure that you're having them at the right age to introduce to each other, the right size, so that they have a better chance of being able to be introduced and not get just destroyed. That was part of why we went with the numbers that we did on having 6 to introduce to a group of 7, so that they had the more numbers to have a better chance of survival. Now I'll talk to you about some of the other things that we did to help try and keep them safe as much as we can. You pecking at my finger? All right, we'll move on. One of the entertaining aspects of introducing a new group of chicks into sleeping with the old ones is that during that time we had 2 of our silkies actually ended up turning out to be roosters. And so the boys let us know that they weren't quite happy with having the new group sleeping with them in the mornings. So we'd have this one here, Bougie, would crow not very often, but we get about 3 to 5 crows between the 2 roosters every morning when I'd let them out. That was about it. They're not very loud at all. We can't even hear them inside our house. And so we'd have them go crow only about for the first, I think, 3 days, maybe 4. And after that, we haven't had them crowing at all again. So our boys, we've kept them very spoiled, very happy. We have 2 boys, which made us a little concerned about how many boys we have and if they'd get along. But adding the new group of hens at the same time, we think it actually ended up being a saving grace in keeping our roosters very happy, because now they've got plenty of females to go around between the 2 of them, rather than being so confined and so few to go around and spread the love. So we're gonna try and keep them as happy as we can, because they're just so pretty. I mean, look at this. All right, next one. Our coop setup really ended up being completely key in how we were able to introduce these 2 groups together. The reason being that we initially got this coop thinking this was gonna be enough. Once it came in, we realized that wasn't gonna be the case, and so we added this external run over the area to just protect our chicks that we already had. Once we wanted to try and introduce that additional flock, the thing that became very important here is that what this allowed is an area for us to put the new group of chickens in, which we put them into here, while having the old group out into the run area during the day. This gave both groups a chance to be right up on each other, having to interact with each other almost all day, every day for about that month-long period that I was going through that with introducing the young chicks to the new ones. And then that way, once I started opening the door to start letting them all out, they were much more accustomed to each other. They'd already been around quite a bit to be able to see each other, smell each other, whatever the case chickens need to feel like they've socialized. They were able to be all together and start building those bonds. It made it a lot easier. I did have some issues with them picking on each other still. That's just kind of what I think is gonna happen, especially this one right here. You can see Etta James, my Golden Comet pullet, I believe it is. So she's actually my friendliest one, the one that I can handle the best, but she's also been my biggest bully when it came to introducing the younger chicks with the older chicks. So as much as I tried to handle her, and she's been the easiest to handle, she loves being held. She might nip at me occasionally, but she'll usually be the one to let me pet her as they're all going through their rebellious teenage years type deal and not wanting to be picked up. She's been the friendliest, but also the biggest bully. So it's something to keep in mind. Just because your chicken interacts really well with you, maybe your kids, that doesn't mean it's gonna interact the same way with a new group of chicks. Another tip that I have is this is Blondie right here. I'm gonna use her as an example. She's the buff Brahma of the new group of chicks that went in. Now, when I was taking the chicks out and bringing them in every morning to this area from the tub that I had in the garage to separate out the two groups while they were sleeping, until they were ready to be introduced, one of the things that I thought was really important is using some of the chicks like Blondie here, my buff Brahma. She's the biggest out of the new group of flock. So what I would do is I would leave her in there last, and she would also be the first to go in the mornings. So that way I would try and bring them out 2, maybe 3 at a time, as much as I could, and introduce and put them into the coop while I go grab the other ones. So that way the biggest ones are in there to have the best chance of survival while the other ones are getting brought out. So I felt that was a really key way that helped make the integration very successful. Aside from all that, guys, they're chickens. They're not that difficult to work with once you get into it. Really, all you got to worry about at this point is just making sure that there's enough food to go around. So we love sunflower seeds. I've got tons of sunflowers that have been growing in my garden all year long. So we like to bring them down, cut a few of them out once they're dried out so there's a good amount of seed. And then you just make sure that when you're chucking them in there, you spread them around pretty well so that there's a good amount of space for everybody to come in and be able to get some. Just cleaned out the coop, so I'm not expecting them to really kind of come running. They've probably been feasting on all kinds of bugs and stuff as I've been scraping away the old stuff and adding new leaves and everything. They quite like it that way. It makes them very happy, and it works really easy for me because, like I've said, it means I don't have to buy bedding. I just rake it up or pick it up from my neighbors. So anyways, you guys, that's it. Like I said, nothing too crazy, but definitely one of the proudest moments that I've had here on the homestead, right up there with propagating out my first blue Java banana. It's just one of those where having the chicks integrate with each other really makes me feel like I'm starting to get the hang of things around here. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on so you can check out our next video. We'll be back with you soon. Molnar out. One of the craziest things I forgot to tell you guys was while the roosters were crowing, one of the things I realized is I would turn around, tell them no while they were in there crowing, and they'd shut up right away. It was hilarious just watching them as soon as I tell them no. So apparently roosters and chickens can actually understand some simple vocabulary. Kind of fun. Bye.